change direction a little bit here. And, when we conceived this idea of BIZNET 2022, we of course wanted this to be an opportunity for people to come and present their businesses and segments, but we also wanted this to become a learning platform. We wanted to foster some sense of direction, and we wanted to foster some sort of new thinking and expertise into what could help you drive your businesses to further success. In that regards, I am really delighted to introduce to you our next speaker, a guest speaker, Sajid Ansar. He is the Chief Executive Officer and the founder of Idea Spice based in Dubai. Before I move into Sajid's credentials, which is really remarkable, I just wanted to know, I have known Sajid for a very long time from my school days, and to me, he has simply been a person who's really followed his passion, a person who's chased his dreams. He really knew at a very young age what he wanted to do. And with that little, precursor, I'm just going to give you a brief of Sajid's history. Idea Spice Design is a leading branding, design and marketing firm in the region with offices around the world. They have created over 1,800 brands globally over the last 20 years and specialize in creating, growing homegrown brands. That is a remarkable stat, right? Idea Spice is also an award-winning boutique design firm that has added innovation and business thinking as key ingredients to rapidly growing local businesses. Forbes Middle East has listed him as one of the top 100 Indian business leaders in the Arab world for 3 years in a row. A big round of applause for Mr. Sajid Ansar. That is his business credentials. Let me get into his spare time. In his spare time, Sajid is an artist who depicts mediative states through monks and koi fish. He is actually working on a publication on the same. He is also working on a fiction book which he hopes to complete this year. Beyond all this, Sajid also uses his time to lecture at business and design universities regularly and often conducts workshops for entrepreneurs and startups. He has also been mentoring startups and CEOs for their growth and mindset, besides running entrepreneurship programs. He is graduated as a product designer from the very reputed National Institute of Design, NID, and did the MEP program at the Indian Institute of Management at Ahmedabad, IIMA. He's worked at Core Emballage and founded and run a profit center that designed, manufactured, and retailed innovations in recycled paper as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce and welcome on stage Mr. Sajid Ansar, a good friend, and I'm sure this next session is going to captivate your attention. Sajid?
I think you have to go to slide 1. I think we move straight to the end. I know all of you are in a hurry, but you moved the slides. Can you move back to the first one? Just a quick one. An honor to be introduced by Binsu. When I got to know Binsu was introducing me, I was super nervous that what he's going to say. We know each other too long. So the subject was discussed with Zamir. Zamir is also a good friend of mine. He's from TKM. And the discussion was that can we get something which can add value to the business community and to senior leaders. And so I do branding, and there is a perception that branding is not for everybody. There is a perception that branding is just a logo. So the idea was, how do you demystify it and how do you explain it? And interestingly, when he said about 1,800 brands, most of them are SMEs who walk into our office saying we don't need to do branding. And I'll start with an interesting story. So we are part of a business network, which Zamir is also part of. It's called BNI. And in BNI, I keep telling people, when you see successful companies and you get their business card, and that really shows that it's not on par with their success, that's a good client for me. So the story goes that there was a friend of mine who was super earnest to try and get me a client. And he met this senior, very large asset management company in DIFC, took their business card. First thing he said is, this business card is really ugly. I'm going to introduce you to a branding firm. And then they asked, okay, who are you going to introduce me to? And they said, Sajid and Idea Spice. And he designed this card. So it was a card which I had designed, they sort of mocked at. So That's typically the kind of clients we look at. So I'm just going to ask again if you can go to the first slide. I'll just take you through and give you an eye opener on how branding can really help businesses. And starting off by saying branding is not just for multinationals. So when I started, we turned 20 last month. We decided very early that we are not going to work with multinationals. We want to help local companies compete with multinationals at any scale. So just to give you a few aspects to quickly explain to you what branding is. First thing most people think is branding is just a logo. My printer can do it. I can take it from the net. My cousin does branding or somebody knows. So the first perception is branding is not just a personification. It's not just a logo which is put there. It's a lot more. It's a sum of a lot of aspects I'm going to break down. The next thing to understand is branding is not an expense. It's an investment because it impacts businesses in multiple ways. A lot of the largest companies now around the world, a big part of their asset column is in the brand equity itself. So there are multiple ways in which branding, I'm going to take you through a few case studies so you can understand it. So I'll rush through this. Long back when people started business in Dubai, it was about, I've got a better price, I can give you better quality. That competition is over now. Everybody knows where the exhibitions are, people know how to source, everybody's got the right machine. So the aspect of competing on price and quality, and some people had spoken in their presentation that you get a quote in Dubai, they look at the lowest one. That's not just the way to compete. It's really about a perception which has to happen from your company. So these days are gone where you can just say that you can't do a price war and get clients anymore. And an ideal branding starts from the customer. It's not about your taste. It's not about the colors you like. It's really about acquiring more clients. So it's got to be thought through. And a good example is Emirates. If you see Emirates, every aspect of the experience, right from your check-in, the food which is there, how children are there, even the Wi-Fi, if you see the password, it actually upsells. So they've thought through the complete customer experience. The next aspect is branding really is the reason why people would want to buy your product or service. A lot of you would feel you've started, you've got your customers, and we work with a lot of clients who are successful and they don't really know what is the reason customers work. So when you dig in, even a simple thing like high integrity, it's about being flexible, it's about doing global scale stuff, but being easy to work with. These are all brand values which have to be sort of explained. The other aspect is people don't realize that a lot of branding is when you have a company which has been there for 10 years, 15 years. We have a lot of companies who are Indian entrepreneurs who are successful and they don't realize that a big part of branding is how do you change how your employees behave. A big part of branding is also that when you are putting yourself and positioning with large companies, it's how you pick up the call, it's how you follow up for payment. It's every aspect of that, and then you can use branding to tell people internally that there are things that have got to change. The other aspect is to attract the right employees in the future. It's your first perception when you go to the website. It's the card you give. And a lot of companies, when you are in that price war, you can use branding to give a perception of being of increased quality. You can increase your prices using the right brand perception. And it's really an emotion. There's a simple thing when you look at even larger brands like Nike. A lot of people will see a Nike and they'll buy it thinking, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. It's an emotion which you're sort of buying into, and that's what they're selling to you. And if an ideal trick is to look at every aspect of how the customer interacts with you. And I tell my clients that it's also how the office smells when you walk inside. Where do people wait? Do you think about where are they going to park the car when they come in? How much time do they take? The bathroom which is there when you have a restaurant you're designing. So every aspect of the customer journey, it's not just the visual part, is what really makes people come back to you. And I tell the clients that our job is to bring you the clients once, but it's the experience which will make them come again and again, be the B2B, be the product, be the service. And a good layman's perspective to explain branding is when you're not there in the room, what do people say about you? A product, a service, if it's about you, is your personal brand. What are companies or people saying about you? What are vendors saying about you? The fact that don't work with them, they don't pay on time is also part of your brand. So all that becomes a brand. And that's what really sets you apart. What makes you different from people is not just a logo, it's what people perceive you to be. I'm going to sort of explain this concept called differentiation. So differentiation is if there are 10 people doing the same thing, what is the thing which sets you apart? What is your unique selling proposition? What is different about you? So whatever I've said right now, some of you are going to look blank. So I'm going to sort of give you a few examples, and I've tried to pick up case studies. Some of you are in your industry, some which are closer, large scale, small scale companies. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of Idea Spice, of why I'm speaking to you before I sort of give this. So Idea Spice is a company. We have turned 20. We say we are a 20-year-old startup. Why we say we are a 20-year-old startup? We have all the processes, experiences of a 20-year-old, but we behave like it's the first day on the job, which means we are still passionate. So I studied design, so I'm still hands-on. I love what I do. So the passion comes across in the company. We've started in Dubai 2002, and we've spread to other parts of the world, created over 1,800 brands. On the top, we've worked with Dubai on the tourism brand for Dubai. The earlier brand called Definitely Dubai was done by us, Ministry of Happiness, Dubai Parks, Medcare Hospital. So we've done stuff, Reliance in India. We're working with Ministry of Power now. So a lot of things at larger scale, but our bigger projects are next door companies. We've also worked on the shawarma place, Ijasa, their new look. So we work on, it's a very diverse kind of portfolio, which is what made it 1,800. And we work with small companies. We look at the lifetime value of the client, not a one-off. So that's the way we work. It works across the board. And we've done projects everywhere in the world. And after COVID, it's made it a lot more easier to do stuff online. People are used to Zoom. People are used to online stuff. It's actually helped us to expand. We've done projects in 50 cities. We're doing work in New York, in London. We're doing jewelry projects, and we're doing government work in Africa. So we say branding, but our main business is differentiation. So what an ideal branding company does is they get into research. They understand who you are, because there are things sometimes you don't need to change. What's your strength? Who's your competition? Who do you want to benchmark with internationally? What's your vision? How do you position this? And that's when we start the design, after doing all this research work first. And it's a combination of marketing, coaching. So we build for design, but we are actually landing up coaching them, giving them a vision. How does the team come on board? How do you sort of get them unified? And a few examples of branding solutions I'm going to breeze through quickly so we can go to some question answers. First one is a hotel. In Dubai, it's a crowded industry, and there was a hotel which wanted to come in. It's called Liva. So we started first. They wanted to give it a very no-frills kind of look, yet have a boutique experience at a price point which is lower. So the first one opened on Sheikh Zayed Road. So the logo was done to give it that very no-frills, very simple kind of a brand, but yet there's a difference. So when we do branding, I'm showing you 1% of the process, but here we get into the colors, what are the typography, what kind of products are coming in there, what visuals or photos will be used for the brand, what is the tone of voice, how are they speaking, which means even the staff, when they greet, what makes them different from the other hotels. Then we sort of get into the stationery. So it's got a language as if somebody is speaking to you. So every aspect of it, the square becomes a brand element. We're looking at brochures, how that look comes in. Then they've got multiple brands. So they're expanding now in different parts of the world. There's hotel residences. How does the color and typography work for that category of business? And then what are the colors and photos which go for the hotel residence? So whereas residence, if you see, there is an orange glow of light which makes you feel welcome, that you're living there for a longer period. So hotel residences is not a quick in, quick out. So the look and feel is, the photos are somebody who's more refreshed, who's welcome, he's there for a long time. So the tone of voice and the keywords again about pampering. So if you see this, the lines are hello, you're feeling at home. Everything talks about the word home, which is embedded. So there's a concept called NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which is what the subconscious as a customer is getting. So the word home is constantly embedded in, so they feel welcome into it. Then they've got an economic one, which is for hostel people, people who are backpacking. This is now opening in Africa. So it's called Econo. The logo just switches over. The word economy is built into it. So if you see, the colors are also a lot more louder, fresher, and the pictures also of people who are not that high end. Even the visuals which are going to be used are depicting the price points in a very subtle manner. But here it's functional. So the map of the city is used as whichever city it gets into becomes a brand. The thing, it says hello, open. So there's again an engaging kind of a brand language. These are the giveaways and cards which come into it, the ad format. So we get into every format to look at it. The second case study is to show how a dying industry can change using branding. A classmate of mine from school he took over a company which was 100 years old. And it's a tile company which makes these cement tiles. You see, the Parsi cafes, etc. These cement tiles as an industry was dying out. And they were called Bharat Flow Tiles. So this was the logo. So we sort of went in to look at how do we revive it. So the first discussion came in saying, what can we do to change the industry? So when we went in, we took the inspiration of the tiles and we designed something and we named it BFT, away from Bharat Flow Tiles. We established the fact that it's been there since 1922. We designed the cards using the patterns of the logo, the stationery, everything was done using these cement tiles to make it look a lot more beautiful. And then we got into a whole aspect saying that these tiles last for a long time. The whole aspect that these heritage tiles are there for generations. So this was something called BFT Plus, which we designed. And then we tied up designers from across India to design tiles to make it more relevant. And we got in architects and interior companies because then they would use these tiles for the pride factor which was there. We got into color books. We redesigned the whole thing to look almost like a high-end product. We got into different products they would get into. And with them, it suddenly started transforming. So a lot of younger designers started using it. We designed the whole lookbook which made it. So we are focusing on the interior and architect section. We designed tiles for them ourselves, also along with different designers. These were new patterns, redesigned for the newer age. And these also took some of the biggest architects from India to be involved with this. So now they've got revived. They have opened stores across India. They're growing rapidly. Most of the cafes, if you see now, these are all the exhibitions we designed for them, which talk about the story as they went across the country. So we looked at the whole thing called Paving the Way. And these are the kind of photo shoots which were done. And if you see, these are all the top cafes in India now have all started using these styles. So it's suddenly come in fashion, and just a story of that branding is not just a logo, it's really about transforming. So here again, I'm showing you again a small part of the iceberg of the work which went into it. But this is how the whole thing is being used across. The other example is how a franchise is rebranded. Usually, when you take a franchise and you bring it in, you expect to follow the guidelines. So we had a friend of ours. This is Brownie Point. There's a video which I'm going to skip now, but Brownie Point had a logo which they brought in, and when we got into it, the sales were low, and we saw that only 5% of the sales was really brownie. So the logo was changed to take away, and you get the BP into it, and the box is the main thing which you buy, which is the biggest advertisement. So we had redesigned the boxes, the whole aspect, and now they've rapidly grown to almost 6 locations. They've got a cloud format. They've got into corporate. So the other one which I'm looking at is some of you had shown CNC. It's somebody again from Kerala here, and they had a company called Falcon, and they were doing stuff for the space program. They were doing stuff even for some special things for Tesla, but it wasn't reflecting the scale. So one thing is, you're playing at a certain level, you already have the quality, but your brand doesn't reflect it because you picked it up. So what we got into is we looked at how we position it, the fact that they've got really high precision equipment. So we wanted to show that, and the brand was done with this arrow, with the centaur to show they've been there for a long time, and that whole thing of the F was done like an arrow to show the high precision. And then we had all the sections. So they had multiple companies, all had different names. So we sort of did the sub-brands, centralized it, finalized what font is going to be used, what are the color coding systems for each of the brands. And we took the technical drawings which are used by all you engineers and made that into a design look and feel. And we spoke about the logo, and that technical drawing was done as a beautification process. So if these were the photo shoots which were done, everything shows machines in process to look at that. So these were cards designed using this whole metal and the technical drawings to show the precision and communicate that when you go for a first meeting. So immediately you're setting a benchmark when you walk inside. So we had a lot of processes of silver foiling to get it as close to the metal, a metallic feel to the whole thing. So each division had a different color. So when they go in as a group, it shows they're all one group, but having separate colors. The stationery again had these technical drawings on it. So these were everything from their different companies had all kind of email signatures, even the invoice given to people. The coffee mugs were designed with the same kind of look. So the experience of a client who comes in here, that's the new vehicles. The website was redesigned to give you the experience. And these were done for the staff. So these were posters put into the factory. So even the labor, they realize what the company stand for. So what were the key values, the fact that we have to go beyond expectations. They also had a lot of clients walking in the factory area. So there were a lot of these messages which worked for the clients and for the staff. And it gets into everything from there. These posters were printed onto metal itself. So we got someone who does metal transfer printing. It spoke about precision. Their brochure profiles were redone. The uniform for the staff, so they felt proud wearing it and coming into the office. Even the staff, we did these special lining and embroidery. So it almost looks like a Ralph Lauren logo with the pride of wearing the company logo. And these were masks also designed during COVID, which were there, the giveaways. All the frosting in the office was also having the same precision kind of a feel. So this was the thing done for Falcon, the thing. And the last project, I'm going to show you about how the margins, this is a date company. In fact, Zamir is here from Green Curve, and we had done this project with Zamir. He worked on the interiors. So this was a company who was trading in dates, and they wanted to create a higher margin product using the same dates they had. So we created a brand called the Date Store, which could get them into outlets and locations. So these were packaging done for it to give it a very high end. So when you're just trading in wholesale, when you pick it up, this was done to make it look and inspired from the desert. The colors were done from the region. These were all the boxes, the story, when you have high end, the moment you have gold foiling and these, to make it like a batil that you don't mind, they have the wholesale product, the moment the box comes here, the value goes up, the margins shoot up. So these were all the boxes designed for them in different price points with magnetic lock. This is how it sort of closes. And these little label details done with gold and metal. These were boxes. And all different scales, even chocolate dates were done. So this just shows you how packaging sort of takes it in. This was a store which was designed along with Zamir. So very minimal, which had that gold thing with the logo, done in a very, very clean, simple thing. The wrapping details which were there. So that's basically showing how the whole thing was done. So on that note, congratulations, you've just been spiced. If any of you have any questions, I breezed through so it wouldn't bore you too much. So yeah, for me, there is a whole sentimental aspect. Like, though it's TKM, I'm from Kollam, so when they said, yes, I'd love to come in, and my grandfather was very closely associated with Tangalunji Musliar. When he was building it, he was on the governing council as a chairman when the college started. So it is a big pride for me to come here and be with you guys because TKM is very close to my heart. So any questions?
Fantastic, Sajid. You know, the first time I visited Sajid's office about 15 years ago, he started off maybe close to 20 years ago. I've always believed to be a good marketer, you have to think irrationally. You cannot be normal. So when I went into this little warehouse converted office that Sajid had, I walked into his door, and on the door was Idea Spice. But you couldn't read Idea Spice because if you needed to read Idea Spice, you had to stand upside down, almost do a yoga position. So, you know, one may think that he got it wrong, but that's not what he did. He just captured your attention. And so there are remarkable ways in where you think, you know, you can capture the attention of your marketeer. And I think that was a perfect presentation in terms of some of the examples that Sajid showed. But also, there's a little bit in terms of branding that, you know, he's involved in. I do not know if you have seen the caption of Dubai Tourism several years ago called Definitely Dubai. That was handwritten. It is Sajid's handwriting. I remember once again walking into his office and had to use the washroom. And, you know, this is a joke that goes between us. I closed the door of the washroom, and you know what? Everything started lighting up from, you know, just everything. You suddenly were thinking, what do you do in that room? What is it, a washroom or not? But he was grabbing your attention. You know, that's marketing. So this is a perfect example, and, you know, fantastic presentation, Sajid. But I'm going to encourage anybody in the audience who has a question for Sajid in any form or fashion, please make use of it. I'm willing to kind of hand over the mic around the tables if there is. I'm going to ask, is there any specific question anybody has? There you go.
I thought Zamir is going to ask us.
Great presentation. I wanted to know, how do you follow the same philosophies for companies that only have website as their interface to the customer?
I didn't hear.
They don't
His
have
question
any brick and mortar stores.
His question is, if there are companies that do not have FaceTime with customers and only have websites, how do you use the same concepts?
So with the digital companies, we do a lot of projects. In fact, there are quite a few startups we also have stake in, which we work. So in fact, most of the clients now, the bigger ones are digital, where you don't really engage with the client at all. But every touch point which you're doing, so if you're a digital company, at the end of it, there is some transaction of a good or service which are there, which is either going to be delivered to you or you're offering the service. So those are all the touch points. So we also look at user interface in exactly the same cycle. So when you land on the home page, how quickly are you capturing your attention? How quickly are people understanding what you're trying to say? So let's say you place an order, even your box or your messaging or language, like if you look at a lot of the local brands, there's a fun message which comes when you place an order, or the bag which comes in, the wrapping paper which comes in there. There's a form which comes, or there is a code, there's a humor in the coupon code or the discount code which comes in. So that whole customer journey, the exact principles also work in there. What is the color? So if it's a price point based thing, there are a bunch of scientific colors which work. If it's a clean looking space and there's convenience which comes there. So for example, when the pandemic hit, there were a few brands, especially local brands, which shot through the ranks because they made it so convenient and easy to buy vegetables. And so many people I know, for example, my father-in-law would always like to go and buy mutton himself, but suddenly he was buying from fresh to home. It's because of the convenience, how easy it is to shop, how many clicks are there. So the same principles, if you apply from a consumer this thing, the same branding principles of how easy is it, it's the same.
Great question, though I think in the changing face of how business is conducted. I will take one more question if there's anyone.
I have a question.
Great. Can you please stand up and mention your name and...
I'm Saira. I'm working in ABB as a channel manager for OEM.
Great, thank you.
I have a doubt, actually, if there are 3 strong brands coming before a client, and how can you influence that client with your brand?
So again, this question can be answered in multiple ways, because this scenario could be a consumer brand where I'm walking in a mall and I want to buy shoes, I've pre-decided, and there are 3 places I go to, or fashion stores, and I decide, or it's like many of us who's trying to get an order in a CNC machine. So both those have similar principles, and if you look at, say, brands like a Zara, why are people attracted to the brand? And the amount of thought process which goes into, let's say, fashion brands, or if I look at local brands, right from what is the brand, what is the logo, what is your window display, what is the smell. So many of them have branding with smell now. When you come inside a store, you know exactly what it is. Now they've added services. I'm going to give the example of Zara, where you can go online, on the app you can select and they keep the clothes aside. The price point. So what they do is they've taken the effort to go to the fashion shows, and Zara actually has the tailoring which happens as fast as something comes in. So the designs are ahead of the bigger brands. So their unique position or USP is high fashion done at a value price, and you get the same feeling of wearing a highly branded, like a Gucci, for example. So that's their positioning. But similarly, let's say if you have a category which is a B2B, which is a CNC company, or an interior company who's doing a fit out. So if you look at the example of, say, Zamir, who's doing a fit out, I'm getting an RFP of 3 companies. I've gone and met them. And what are the keywords which I'm deciding? If I know from the customer, it's a retail customer, for him, the rental is important. So I want somebody who can finish it on time. How many restaurants have they done if it's a restaurant client in that? So how do you depict experience, timeliness, project management? How do you put those keywords into it? How do you sort of look organized? If you look organized and your whole design of your RFP itself is wrong, what are the keywords? That they don't look only at price. Okay, the price is more expensive, but they seem to be more experienced. I don't mind. So we've got a whole process where for our own branding, our proposals are designed keeping the thought process. The invoice we give, we know the accounts person is where we have to follow up for second payment. So our invoice says caution in big. Inside it says contains excess spice. So it makes the person in accounts smile and think of us. Procurement gets a receipt voucher as an asterisk at the back. It's saying we love receiving money. So they remember us in a fond way. So next time there's a proposal which comes, even if you're 5%, 10% higher, they don't mind going with you because you tick the boxes which they want and they emotionally tend to like you. I hope that answers.
Great question again. In the interest of time, we're going to move on, but I really want to thank Sajid Ansar for making the time to be with us today. Obviously, Sajid's going to spend a little more time here before he runs off to dinner, I understand. But if you want to exchange cards or have any interactions with Sajid, please feel free to. But Sajid, fantastic presentation. A lot to learn from you. Thanks for joining us. I would have loved to give you a break, but I know the Indian way of networking is once you go out, you don't come back in. So I'm going to let you network wherever you are, stretch your legs wherever you are, move in, out if you need to. But just in the interest of time, we're going to keep going because we've got a few more presentations ahead of us. We have another fantastic session from a guest speaker also up that I'm sure we can learn from. So the next speaker for us is, and let me get this right here. Give me a moment. So the next speaker from us is Shuhaib Abdul Razak, 1997 mechanical, and he's from City Knights Contracting. So Shuhaib, may we have you on stage, please?
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Shuhaib Abdul Razak, representing the company City Knights Contracting. Our company is a full-fledged building construction company having branches in Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, and Abu Dhabi. We are doing a lot of industrial projects as well as shopping malls and commercial projects also. We have started in 2005 and having around 350 employees right now. In-house, we have all MEP and aluminum and glass also. So, with the grace of God, we are having a lot of projects and doing good projects with good track record. We are having repeated clients also. The one more thing I want to convey today in this market when we are in Dubai is about what we see about the real estate. This message actually I want to convey to you. That's why I came here without that this is the right time in Dubai to do any real estate business. Because we are seeing that we are doing a lot of projects for real estate people. And they are making a good amount of money in today's market as such. So with this TKM, lot of entrepreneurs around, why nobody has taken an initiative till today to do or to gather all the people and to build a flat at least? Because you can see in lot of places in Dubai like Arjan, Furjan, everywhere, you can get a plot, you can build. And now if you want in selling point of view also, or staying point of view also. So with this much of entrepreneurs right around, why we all can catch together and at least make a building at a cost? That is what you should all think. Everybody's wish now to own a flat or a villa in Dubai. But when we go to any person or people who are selling, we have to buy at a selling price. But if you all join together, you can build or you can get an apartment at a cost price. So this thing we should think right now. And today is the right day. If you didn't think in today's market, you will not think again. So there are a lot of think tanks are over here, people who are all come together and try to catch up where all the, mostly we can take a land over here, we can, there are a lot of architects and contractors on board. They can all catch together and we'll be able to do it. Because maybe we can build a building where half of it can be used, half of it can be sold. So it's a right time to do such things over here right now. So this is a message what I have to convey to you. So you should think in the right this. Thank you very much, please.
Thank you, Shoaib, there for provoking our thoughts in that space.